who some of you might know. This is Claudius.
Morning.
And I have to admit, I was a little worried in the first semester when Claudius was not in school for about a month because he's like playing basketball. And what he didn't hear was every day I stand at the front and say, "Where's Claudius?" Every single day I said that. Did you know that?
Oh my God, no.
Of course, I knew where you were, but I thought it was funny. Maybe it wasn't funny, but I thought it was funny.
Low-key funny.
But Claudius has a great topic. Now, you talk about a nice controversial topic to talk about at Thesis. This is like this is sort of the kind of topic that I'm looking for every year. Something that really's got some controversy to it. And so, and it's about gambling in Indonesia. And what I didn't realize is that there was already in the past an attempt at creating gambling in Indonesia. These are Claudius's words. He says, "I would like to thank God the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit for bringing us all here today. I also would like to thank my advisor, Mr. Anthony, for helping me throughout the making of this thesis. I also want to thank Mr. Wade, that's me, for guiding me through the making of this thesis. Finally, I would like to thank my parents, friends, and others in attendance for watching my thesis." And so we'll get started. His title is "Up the Ante, Why Localized Gambling is an Option for Economic Stability." I'm going to get the timer started, and I'll tell you when you can start.
Okay.
Give an applause to Claudius one more time. All right, you can start whenever you're ready.
Step into a world where every roll of the dice whispers secrets, every spin of the wheel holds fortunes, and every card dealt promises both risk and reward. Welcome to the labyrinth of chance, where destiny dances on a deck of cards and every bet holds the potential to rewrite fate itself. Gambling. However, beyond the glitz and glamour of gambling lies a contentious debate. Are there economical benefits from it? Should restrictions be given for people's safety and well-being? And does it benefit the people and their businesses? Ladies and gentlemen, what if I told you that gambling could properly work in the 21st century, especially in a developing country? But what if it has always worked since ancient times? Thousands of years ago, kingdoms, states, and countries have practiced gambling. The first evidence comes from Mesopotamia, Egypt, and also ancient Greece. Originally, people anciently used gambling as a variety of harmless gaming or entertainment that is usually played in public spaces or streets in forms of animal fighting and dice games. Earliest evidence comes from two sources. One is found in Egypt and the other in China. Dice that have been said to be used for gambling are found in an ancient Egyptian tomb that has dated back to the year 2000 BC. On the other hand, in China, archaeologists have found tiles coming from ancient books and slips that dates back to the year 200 BC, where people started gambling for political and economical reasons to raise government funds. As gambling evolves, so do the ways that people practice it. One of the most influential moments of the rise of the trend of gambling is in United States of America, where governmental revenue has risen from $540 million to $25 billion in one state alone, which is the state of Nevada. This successful incline made gambling operations spread towards other parts of the world, including in exceptional resorts and also tourist attractions. This leads to today, where gambling has been more popular as well as controversial than before. Gambling and its correlation to crimes and numerous cases of individuals going bankrupt has sparked significant controversy and debate regarding its legalization worldwide. One such issue is pathological or problematic gambling, which medical professionals and experts have deemed as a serious health concern. Problematic gambling is also associated with crimes such as theft, fraud, and also forgery. However, there are two ways to solve this difficulty. One approach is to set limits on the amount of money spent, which enable people to avoid excessive spending, further cravings, as well as further addiction. Another potential method includes meditation, self-reflection, and also therapy sessions for the individuals. Before diving into further details and arguments, it is crucial to define terms and phrases that might be complex to avoid misunderstanding and also confusion. According to the United Nations, developing countries are nations with relatively low standards of living, underdeveloped industrial bases, as well as a moderate to low Human Development Index scores. This index is a comparative measure of poverty, literacy, education, life expectancy, and also other factors for countries worldwide. Next, the term localized gambling refers to legalized gambling operations confined to specific areas under government authorization and supervision. Finally, economic stability is the situation where a country's vital economic resources are accessible to its citizens and that there are no significant economic fluctuations that disrupts their daily lives, while growth is the constant improvement towards said stability. Thus, the aim of this thesis is to assist developing countries in elevating and also enhancing their economic stability through the legalization of localized gambling. Numerous countries have refrained from legalizing localized gambling since the start of its appearance. This issue is morally sometimes disagreeable since there are more religions and also beliefs against it. This is why gambling itself is like a leap into a pool without looking. There may be a refreshing splash of a wind, but there will always be a risk of landing in a shallow end, leaving people with regret and also uncertainty. This is why, when legalizing gambling operations, there should be careful process on authorizing and controlling it. This is because, when addressed in a wrong way, it can create conflicts that interlink with the moral aspects and also the use of gambling. Not only that, when this issue is misunderstood, it can give an image that gambling is a crime and not as an opportunity for people to create jobs and revenue. With that, developing countries should consider legalizing localized gambling for economic stability and growth due to three reasons. One, it can proceed to give benefits in terms of public and also government funds. Two, it can make the businesses in the area to gain advantages. And three, it can also provide safe and beneficial entertainment in the area of the establishment. One of the most significant component to a country is its economic status and growth. Gambling itself is like a person that wields a double-edged sword with both drawbacks and benefits that can be very difficult to control. However, when wielded properly and put into use properly, it could be very beneficial and effective for the user, which in this case are the area with gambling establishments. A policy that enables the government to partially take money out of the gambling operations can increase public funds for more hapless areas. This also prevents local profits from leaking out of the community's economy simply because local people are spending money inside of the region. Some places that implement this concept and have proven it to be beneficial are both Las Vegas and Jakarta, Indonesia. Las Vegas started as a small railroad city in Nevada, but expanded into a gambling tourist haven in the 1950s. On the other hand, Jakarta, Indonesia, which is a developing country, has also proven this case. During the Ali Sadikin period, in the year 1966 until 1977, he proposed to legalize casino gambling in a region called Ancol. Even though it is no longer operable today, people of the region still feel the benefits that was made by the operation from 50 to 60 years ago. However, public funds and facilities are not the only one that this rise affects. Government revenue from establishments can repress the amount of taxes that the people in the area have to pay. This also may lead to a reduction of corruption between politicians. As research shows, the tendency of corruptions tend to be lower if the wages for the officials rises. Through this, politicians can avoid the fear of bankruptcy as well as the fear of not being able to fulfill their daily needs. This evidence shows that the repressed taxes can provide a safer and better relationship between the government and the people, which also enables teamwork to build the region up economically. Last but not least, when gambling operations start to grow and spread, it will bring revenue for other businesses around the local region. Research shows that there is correlation between tourism and gambling, which regions with gambling operations tend to be more famous to the public, enabling more revenue to pour in, and also generating more earnings for businesses around. People coming from other places will inevitably spend their money on other businesses in the area, which increase their well-being. This means businesses around will also flourish due to the legalization of localized gambling in less urbanized areas. Partnership and collaboration can also be available between local businesses and also gambling establishments. These types of collaborations provide an ever-growing and healthy business connection between regular businesses and gambling establishments. We have discussed the indirect benefits that these businesses can attain from gambling establishment. But what if I tell you that the legalization of localized gambling can enable the businesses to gain direct advantages? This means that it will provide new opportunities for business and employment in the area. First things first, this gambling industry provides business owners with new and a unique way of a business. This is why in this case, the early bird gets the worm. People that initiate the first idea and action to open these establishments, whether it is a casino or lottery booth, will draw the attention of the public and harvest its benefits. As a result, just like sugar attracts ants, it magnetizes people who wish to find entertainment or make more money in the local region. Take France, for example. The government there has legalized gambling since the year 1987 for people above 18 years old, even in an online sector. This online sector, however, still regulates under government authorization and also supervision. This is the case since every online gambling operation that regulates in France have to apply a license with ANJ, or the Autorité Nationale des Jeux. Therefore, new business owners can not only open a unique way of business, but also through the easiest way possible. When people realize the benefits and profits that they gain from these businesses, more of them will contribute and create an industry with more firms and competitions. These competitions, however, will be a healthy kind, where it provides for the whole region and boosts their economy. This healthy business competition is a product of various competitors that strive for better performances and quality of their products. For example, one casino is branding their services in a form of interactive art installation in public spaces, and it seems that it generates more revenue. Other businesses then will see and try to copy or not do better than it. This creates the atmosphere of newly made ideas which can and will make the gambling industry a unique space to not only sell their services, but also interest people in coming to these establishments. Finally, implementing it will not only help the businesses, but also consumers that will receive the best quality of services provided by these gambling establishments. A common goal between the people and the government of a region is to provide opportunity with results in a rising economy. It is for this very purpose that gambling should be brought to communities, since uneducated and also the unfortunate are the first to benefit from its legalization. It is evident that a gambling operation needs a lot of staff in order for it to run properly. Take a small casino, for example. It usually has an average of more than 50 employees to run the property, meaning that people in the more unfortunate regions or areas can apply and be employed, starting from a janitor or security guard up until to a leader or a CEO. These employment opportunities will, in the long term, increase the employment rate and also create more prosperous and happy people in the region. Not only that, research shows that when the employment rate of the region increases, the crime rate of the region will decrease due to satisfied people and also a better way of living for them. Lower crime rate will eventually lead to a peaceful and harmonious environment for the people living in the region, creating a chance for them to grow economically. Another benefit that will work harmoniously with incoming revenue and funds is the safety aspect of this so-called localized gambling. Due to its localization, gambling operations are safe and comfortable for both customers and business owners. A gambling operation under government supervision and authorization will not only be well structured, but will be more transparent in terms of transactions than the one without government permission. In other words, gambling outside of proper establishment or permissible operations will lead to increased pathological gambling, increased crime, and also an unsafe environment for the customers. Next, a more well-structured gambling establishment will also contribute to less conflict between the people of the region. When the gambling operation consists of fewer problems and crimes correlated towards it, people in the region will not deem them as a loss-generating business. Thus, this establishment would be shown to the public as a legitimate business and will make it even more popular, generating more revenue. This provides a way that can increase the well-being of the industry itself, as it avoids many chances or opportunities of crimes. There have been many links that connect the gambling industry with the criminal world. Two of the most common crimes that shows up in this gambling industry are fraud and blackmail. To prevent these crimes, it is crucial for the government to do a thorough and clear check of the establishments, including the place, the money transparency, and also the track records of the people who runs it. Finally, checking the track record of the authorities can avoid any kinds of problems in the long term. Checking their criminal history and their past businesses' success helps the establishment grow faster and also in a really safe way. This is to get rid of any incompetent or criminal-minded employees or leaders. Gambling on its own can lead to a disorder called pathological or problematic gambling, as I've said before. The first way that an establishment can prevent this is by using boundaries in regards to the money that the customers spend. This means that there's a maximum amount of money that can be spent by one customer per name. Next, another regulation that the establishments can implement is a personal survey or questionnaire that can uncover the customer's addiction background or also information regarding their economical status. This, by any means, becomes the most important to safely protect customers, since when checking, the side of the establishment can categorize them as eligible or not to gamble. It will help the people with lower economic status to not spend money on the gambling because of the high risk and also addiction chances, which will then avoid these people from going bankrupt or seeking money in more unethical ways. The topic of gambling still remains a controversial topic and will always be. Some people may first argue that the cost to start up these establishments are way too expensive and that these developing countries might not have the money to do so. While it is true that the cost to start up these gambling industry are expensive and can be categorized as needing a lot of effort in order for it to be successful. However, even though the money invested into it can be expensive, it is a long-term plan that provides a high chance to succeed and cover whatever amount of the money that was spent to build it in the first place. Slowly but steadily, it is better to start late than to not start at all. Finally, people also might say there's a high chance of failure when dealing in this industry, since not many people understand the way to manage these businesses, and there may be economical problems if it turns out to fail. While it is true that businesses in this industry are difficult to succeed, and that there are a lot of obstacles and difficulties that business owners must overcome. However, there will always be a reward after the struggle a state will face. A solution to overcome difficulties and also obstacles is a clear and strict background and economical check done by the government, who will authorize these establishments in the region with proper education. Thus, when doing this, the government are able to slim the chance of failure and also more crimes that correlates with this gambling industry. To sum up, the ability to reduce the chance of bankruptcy is also achievable through proper steps and regulations. This is real-life proof that this gambling industry can do more good than harm towards a community if the government governs it properly. In summary, facts and evidence have points to the benefits and also improvement that localized gambling can provide, starting from the business and public funds, up until helping the community, society, businesses grow up as a whole, and also the implementation of safety boundaries, and also restrictions for consumers' well-being, and also a healthy environment. However, what if we do nothing? What if we let those poor and struggling developing countries stay in that same economical and social state? What if we live in a world where rich countries thrive off this gambling industry while the poor countries are neglected, getting poor, just because they did not consider a wide variety of options, including this idea of a gambling establishment? This is why, as a closing, I would like to address a wake-up call to society to consider the localized gambling and also its benefits. Governments of developing countries should also start initiating ideas, actions, and regulations to start up this industry of business. Not only that, I also urge society to be more critically and logically aware of the benefits that localized gambling can provide, without being skeptical or defensive before doing proper research. Finally, I respectfully urge new innovators and business startup owners to take advantage of this golden opportunity and increase their own well-being, as well as the well-being and economic stability of the region. That is it for my speech today. Thank you. God bless.
All right, thank you, Claudius. Let's
sir.
go ahead and start the Q&A, and we'll start with Miss Bethany.
Okay. Hi, Claudius.
Morning,
Good,
miss.
good delivery.
Yes, ma'am.
Really
Thank you.
enjoyed it. Well done. And I appreciate that you went with something controversial. So
Yes.
that's brave.
Thank you.
Okay. So I'm going to start a little bit tough. So you mentioned some of the crimes that are associated with gambling, right?
Yes.
Fraud and blackmail, I think you said.
Yes, ma'am.
My big issue is if we incentivize something like this in Indonesia, in a developing country, right? Another thing that frequently goes along with gambling is prostitution,
Okay.
right? So, like in Vegas, for example, sex trafficking is a huge issue, and you mentioned Vegas a lot in your speech. My issue is how should we really be incentivize something that could lead to an increase in rates of prostitution
Okay.
and other similar crimes like drugs, right? Because those often, these, sins rarely travel alone, they usually travel in groups,
Yes, ma'am.
right? So,
Okay. Okay. So to answer that question, firstly, I would like to address that I use Vegas not as like the whole thing, but then I use Vegas just in the economic aspect of it to say that like we get this much profit when doing these gambling establishments. And another point is that I feel like since these gambling establishments are regulated by governments and through proper rules and also these background checks of the criminal past or also their past business success, then I feel like the government should enable policies to check and recheck of like these drugs and crimes that's going on inside the gambling establishment so that it would be clear of that.
yeah, but the issue with the developing countries, there's already so few resources to start with, right?
Okay.
So, I just don't know how realistic it is that the government will be able to successfully regulate that because we just don't have the capacity yet, right, as Indonesia, and as the fact that sex trafficking is already a big issue here. Do you see my point?
Okay.
Kind of?
Okay. So just to clarify, so you're asking like since developing countries are not that like rich.
Yeah, I mean, rich and we lack the manpower
Okay.
within the government because,
Okay,
like
s-
you said, the government's already poor to start out with. So,
Okay, to start, I think I would like to take an example from Jakarta during the Ali Sadikin period. When he proposed the casino gambling, he's going to auction these businesses towards rich people. So we want, okay, so we cannot generalize that in a developing country that everybody's poor. So we can see that in Indonesia especially, like let's say Hartono Group, there are also rich people that
Yep.
maybe can like establish these kinds of gambling industries. So
Yep.
so that this like auctions towards rich people. We're actually inviting rich people to help the poor people of the country in order to also achieve this economic stability.
yeah, so basically you're saying you should privatize things like security and stuff if the
Yes.
government can't afford it.
But then we're going to privatize, but then we also are going to have teamwork with the government. So I feel like it's a bit of both because I feel if it's only one side, let's say it's only the government or the private establishment, then they're not going to be able to achieve such regulations.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. My other thing is you did mention limits, right? As a preventative for addictions and similar issues, right? My big issue with that is that most casinos around the world, right, already have a table limit.
Okay.
You have a maximum bet that you can place.
That's right.
And it depends on the size of the casino, obviously, how wealthy they are. I don't think that stops people from being addicted to gambling,
Okay.
right? So that's kind of the fundamental issue for me. If you have people who are generally already like not economically great and they're trying to make some quick cash,
Yes.
yeah, like they might very well lose it all at a casino. And table limits already exist.
Okay.
So like how do you really discourage that from happening?
Okay. Thank you for that point. So I believe that my state of saying that there's a limit is also helped or supported by the fact that we are going to check these people before making them eligible to gamble or not. Since, as I said before, we have economical check for these people in order for them to like understand that oh, you're not eligible to gamble since you have this amount of money. And so we are going to spend these people, avoid these people from like gambling.
So, like, do they have to show a bank statement in order to enter the casino? Like, how does that work?
Okay, so one of the way can be a questionnaire or survey itself. However, it is also important to remember that we are working with the government, meaning that we know, let's say, if this person pays taxes, if this person have this much of richness, and so through that we can understand that this person is eligible to gamble or not through
Yeah,
their
so
account.
you can't just let anyone in off the
No,
street.
yeah.
Okay. That's kind of how it is in the States. Pretty
Yes.
much anyone who's of legal age can kind of walk into a casino. But you'd want it to be more regulated.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Let's see. I have a few more, but go ahead.
Oh,
Yeah.
back and forth.
Yeah,
First of all, I apologize. I'm late.
Okay, Mr.
Suddenly, I have to substitute for Seoul students again,
Okay.
and I forgot to check the time. But
Mr.
anyway, despite being late, I've read some parts of your papers and I've seen your delivery.
Yes, sir.
Really good. You almost bought me.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
But yeah, here's the thing about gambling, though. You propose that gambling is like this casino, right?
Yes, it could be one of the forms, sir.
Yeah, one of the forms, because right now in the 21st century, most gambling are done online,
Yes.
through phones, through website that is illegal. And even if you make it illegal, people could just download VPN for free and then just lose all of their life saving. How are you going to make sure that people are going to go to that casino instead of just download apps on their phones?
Oh, okay. So I also mentioned the example in France, where like the government legalized gambling for people above 18 in an online sector, and this online gambling operation is regulated under a gambling license in France itself. So meaning that under the government, and so I believe that's one of the things that we can apply in Indonesia, since or in a developing country, since nowadays it's technology, right? Everything's phone and gadgets, and so I think this is one of the ways that we can apply it.
Okay, so now about the government regulation. This is about from Indonesian context, right?
Okay, yeah, hey, tell me.
Okay, in Indonesian context, do you think when you said government, which part of government do you mean? Is it governor? Is it Menkominfo? Is it Menteri Koordinasi Ekonomi? And how are those government level coordinates?
Okay, I feel like they need to coordinate together in order to achieve this, since I believe that the education level on gambling itself in Indonesia especially is not really that high, and not many people understand how to regulate it, especially which we can see that localized gambling is not something that is considered good for people in Indonesia, because every time we mention gambling, or let's say in bahasa judi, everybody think as it is a crime or a taboo thing to do. And so I believe that everyone needs to work together, the government, people, every part of the government, to be educated on this localized gambling.
Yeah, all parts of government. But what I'm asking is, who will have the final say on how these gambling operations are going to be run? Who decides that? How is it regulated? Because the case for Indonesia sometimes, case point, the minister said A, but the governor below, who will have their land used for gambling casinos, said, no, you can't build it because there's a problem. Like, who should get the final say?
I think the person who should get the final say, in my opinion, is the governor, since he or she would understand the conditions of the people during the places. Maybe the minister would have like understanding on like, oh, this may be good for the people, but then the person who is actually in the field and looking at these people's social and economical status are the governor.
And then just maybe the minister are the one who just set the regulation.
Yes, sir.
You figure out how to implement it. Okay, that's great. And then you mentioned about that. Yeah, this is a high cost business. There's
Yes.
a high level of risk and reward. That would mean our domestic businessmen and businesswomen are less likely to invest in gambling. So probably the government is going to get those investment from abroad, right? Like,
Yes.
for example, like, I don't know, casino owners from Macau
can
or
be.
Nevada. Hey, could you open your business here? Doesn't that mean the economic benefits will go mostly to them
Okay.
instead of us?
Okay, so I want to take an example from Singapore. So in Singapore have this casino gambling in which they sometimes don't allow these Singaporeans to actually go into the gambling establishments just because they want to get money from tourists, from outside, from people outside. And so this can be implemented in Indonesia, let's say making a casino in Batam, which is near to like other countries, right? For people to go there and also spend their money, while Indonesians would just get the money without having to risk any money loss.
Okay. In Indonesia, which city do you think this is a perfect place
I
to set
believe
up
it's,
casino?
yeah, as I said before, I think it's Batam, since I believe that is a really strategic location, which is near to like other countries, Singapore, Malaysia, and it has been like one of the most like international trading ports for like Indonesia as well. So like,
Yes, Bethany, you want to take on?
I'm surprised you didn't say Bali, but Batam is interesting. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so so you mentioned the profit revenue, I think, of Vegas, right? How much
Yes,
it
ma'am.
increased, or of Nevada?
Nevada, 540 million to 25 billion.
Yes. So the U.S. is obviously a developed nation.
Yes.
Do you have any similar evidence of gambling benefiting a developing nation?
Okay. So I think in actual statistics or data of the economical rise, I don't really have the data right now. However, I can see that many countries have started from a developing countries and now is already a developed country. For example, some in the United Arab Emirates or like Dubai over there, it usually be just like a desert land, and there's no cities there, and they can get money from these gambling establishments.
Yeah, but their primary resource is like oil,
Oil,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. So that's
So okay, so I
yeah.
think to support that is like this gambling establishment can be an option. So like it would be not the main thing, but then it also supports everything in a whole as a whole.
Yeah. Okay. So it's just a part of the economic growth.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. In that case, like I guess my final question probably is just that I think I'm just deeply uncomfortable with the idea of the government essentially incentivizing vice, right? We think that the government's job generally is to advance virtue, right? To advance good things. That's
Okay.
why you tax cigarettes, you tax alcohol, because you're disincentivizing people
Okay.
to drink it, right? So my issue is like, what is the difference between this thesis and say us saying that we should set up more bars, like incentivize alcoholism?
Okay.
Like, yeah. You see what I mean?
Okay,
Like,
yeah, yeah. To answer your question, we also tax this gambling operation. So we're also encouraging people that have money to spend money on this gambling establishment, not the people that have like little to no money. And so we help these people with lower classes, not through like, oh, spend money on my gambling establishment, not through that. However, through employments and also through like the businesses around.
So
it.
you're saying like the barrier to entry in the business would be very high. Like if they're going to
Yes,
have
of
to pay
course.
tax on it, then it's
Yes.
like only the wealthiest of the wealthy could set
Yes,
up those
yes,
businesses.
because the goal of this thesis is to to invite the rich people to also help the lower class people.
Okay. Okay. Cool. I think that's all for me.
Is there still time? Yeah, I'm just still curious because I like it. Fraud, blackmail, prostitution, drugs. One more thing that is often accompanied with gambling. Organized crime.
Okay.
In the early days of Nevada gambling, Las Vegas was dominated by the Italian mafia, correct? Before everything is cracked down. In Indonesia, we have another breed of
Mobs.
organized mobs. We call them ormas.
Yes.
The difference is ormas have a license. They're legalized. And they typically ask for fees for simply existing. Now, I don't think people want to invest casinos in areas like in Batam if every week they're going to have to pay dues. And you're going to have to crack down. You're going to have to use law enforcement to crack down on legitimate organizations. Are you going to do it? Because that would sound authoritarian. Or how are you going to make sure even the locals can accept the existence of this gambling?
Okay, to answer your question, I believe that the government should also give like policies for these ormas to like, let's say, pay taxes towards them or like regulates in a manner.
So the gambling have to pay taxes to civil society, ormas.
Oh no, I mean no, the ormas needs to pay taxes towards the governments who's regulating in the business of
okay.
gambling itself.
So you're not just simply existing to, okay.
Yeah.
Only tax
I mean, taxes and another fee, maybe like security fee or whatever it is.
All right, let's legalize it. I'm just joking.
Thank you very much,
Okay,
sir.
Claudius, so one of the big arguments against this, even in America,
Yes.
is that it is a form of taxation, right? It's how the government brings in money. But in America, those against legalized gambling say it's a regressive tax. In other words, you're not taxing people for making more money. You're actually taxing those people who are in desperate need, who want to get into the casinos and strike it rich, right? So you're taxing people, even though I know you say there's some sort of barrier to entry, the people that really want to gamble are the ones that say, I have a little bit of money, maybe if I go put it in the slot machine, I'll be a millionaire by the end of the day, right?
Okay.
So what do you say to that it's a regressive tax?
So, okay, I have 2 points. My first point is that these people that's like in a lower economic status is also regulated and also protected to not being eligible to gamble at all. That's one. Second, we can also do what Singapore do, which is letting people outside of the country to be tourists and spend their money inside our local region. We do not need to make these local people spend their money in the area of the establishment, but then these tourists will inevitably spend their money in there.
Okay. And what do you think, just tell us, what is the general philosophy about, or how is gambling accepted or not accepted by Muslims? Tell us.
Okay, so I believe that Muslims have like really this strong hindrance of gambling, and they don't really like it. And so every time we say something about gambling, they don't really like it, and they don't want to legalize this especially. However, we need to remember that our country, Indonesia, a developing country, is also a country that's based on Pancasila Bhinneka Tunggal Ika, which is diversity, right? So we need to understand that we do not need to, like, we cannot just apply one religion towards this country, since the reality of it that we have many people with different religions and cultural backgrounds in this country itself, meaning that we can take an analogy of pork meat. Pork meat is haram in Muslims, right? However, it is legalized, and we still can eat it even in Bandung itself, right? So meaning that even though Muslims don't agree or say this as haram, then it still can be legalized since there are other religions in this country, sir.
And even within Christianity, there are some groups that would say, no to gambling, right?
Okay.
That it's sinful. And then others would say,
It's okay.
maybe not sinful. But what's your approach to it? What is your view on it?
According to Christianity. So I think according to Christianity, gambling itself is not encouraged in the Bible. However, it is not morally wrong according to the Bible, since we can see that gambling itself is not explicitly mentioned in the Bible, since back then there aren't sort of problems that is occurring right now. So we cannot compare something right now with something that is back in the day in the Bible. However, we can see, even though I'm not an expert in Bible or theology, I would like to address that the Bible is not a prohibitive book, but it is a book of wisdom and love, and it puts forward of the importance of making God as our God, no one else, right? Nothing else. We cannot worship other gods than God Himself. So meaning that if we are gambling to an extent that we're going to receive money and not glorify or over-glorify the love of money itself, then it would be okay and not a sin.
Okay. And do you happen to know what the nickname of Las Vegas is?
Sin City.
Sin City, that's right. Sin City. And so do you really think that we can create gambling without bringing in some forms of crime and sinful behavior within it? Or is your take that we just need to create systems that minimize it? What is your take on that?
Yes, I believe that we can create that kind of gambling establishment, since this is the whole point of my thesis, and I see that we don't want to be like Las Vegas, even though it is successful. However, there's a lot of crimes and everything underground organizations that is still going on right now, right? So we don't really want to be like that, and that is why I provide these regulations and also rules in order for it to be really safe. And so, yeah.
Okay, so one more question. If the government is going to promote gambling and incentivize gambling and actually make money on gambling, should the government then also provide free services for gambling addiction
Even though that is outside of my topic, however, I would like to answer that question. Sure, of course. Why not? Because since the goal is to provide a gambling establishment with safety for the customers and also business owners. So meaning that the customers themselves need help. So even if these customers are already not eligible to gamble, but they're addicted to gambling in some sort of way because, let's say, illegal gambling or other things, then there should be cost or something to minimize that.
Okay, you made it through the interrogation. The time is over.
Wait, last question. Claudius, do you
Okay.
gamble?
Huh?
Do you gamble?
No, I don't.
Okay.
But you will.
I would if this sort of gambling establishment exists.
Okay, thank you,
I got the
Claudius.
money.
You did a great job. So we're kind of on a tight schedule. We're going to start the next one in only 5 minutes. So please.